Now, I thought, as I have recently changed my channel name, that I would stick my head above the parapet. Now, a number of my family are farmers, and some of my Scottish ancestors were also farmers in Dumfries and Galloway, which is still 70% agricultural. I support the campaign No Farmers, No Food. Now, recently I found Mark at the Bowler Hat Farmer here on YouTube, and I gave him a sub, and I've been watching his content with great interest. Now, one of the things that is launching is an online directory called foodfindershub.co.uk. It's free to join, there's no charge. So if, for example, you're a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker like myself, or other producer, perhaps you're a fishmonger, an independent grocers, we are being encouraged to put our details into the database so that when it's launched next week, people will be able to find us. This directory will hopefully link people up to businesses and producers whilst cutting out the supermarkets. It's a known fact that supermarkets are not necessarily into wonky vegetables, for example, and will really negotiate down on prices for meat, fruit and vegetables and other produce, which means that it's difficult for farmers and producers in general to earn a fair price for what they produce or supply. So I signed up to it the other day, and it's a straightforward process. As I said, there's no charge. I myself make candles, of course, and reusable beeswax food wraps and textile items. And I'm more than happy to support the project in this way. Mark also put out the other day that they are looking for ambassadors, which is a voluntary position and might include, for example, handing out leaflets and talking to producers and makers and other suppliers and getting the word out there. Now, I would do it, however, at the moment I'm slightly reticent because I'm quite snowed under with work at the moment, and I also don't have a vehicle. However, Mark, if you're listening, if you are short of ambassadors in the Thanet area, please contact me because I will do it. I will put my details forward. But in the interim, I'm encouraging anybody who is interested in supporting farmers and producers to go and have a look and see if it's something that you would like to do. I'll put the website anyway on the screen. So I've been down to Ramsgate this afternoon and it's been blowing a right hoolie. We've got another storm. I wanted to go to the shoe repairers, but they were going to be closed till 3 o'clock, and I didn't particularly want to stay out in a biting cold wind for about an hour and a half. So I just went to the butcher to get some eggs and some Bovril sausages and mince from Taylor's Butchers, and I told them about foodfindershub.co.uk as well. The butcher said his boss is going to be in tomorrow and he'll talk to him about it. And I said, well, if you can't remember all the details, just go to the Bowler Hat Farmer on YouTube and he will tell you more. And I also went to Krusty's Bakers as well to get some rolls and a cheeky donut. You know, I can't resist a donut. I'm a bit of a donut addict, especially the ones from Krusty's. They're really squishy. Yum. Anyway, I'm back home now and raring to go for the afternoon. Anyway, let me show you one of the new candles I've been making. Look at this beauty. This is my new beeswax dinner candle. These are 10 inches long and about 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimetres in diameter at the bottom end. Aren't they gorgeous? This is a white beeswax candle, and these are the kind of things that people used to burn at Regency balls in the early 19th century. So if anybody, for example, wants a long burning candle that's suitable for historical events, for example, like a ball or a dinner, when they would have used something like this, then maybe this is the right thing for you. I also am making these in yellow beeswax as well, and I'm going to be putting these on my website catevans.com and also in my Etsy shop, which is catherineevansdesign.etsy.com. So these are brand new in. The white beeswax ones really smell of honey. They're absolutely gorgeous. The next thing I want to talk about is also associated with the whole farming thing, and that is BlackRock. BlackRock have launched a £100 million hedge fund to buy up prime agricultural land in the UK, and we need to be asking ourselves, without over speculating, why would a global organisation, a global finance organisation, why would they want to buy prime agricultural land? Secondly, what implications will that have for us? And thirdly, if one could argue that a global organisation is buying up prime agricultural land, is there not a risk, for example, that people could be starved into complying with whatever narrative or policy is being imposed? You get your people to do what you want by starving them or by limiting access to food. This is why it's really important that we have hubs like foodfindershub.co.uk and have relationships with independent suppliers so that there is less chance of being persuaded to go along with whatever political agenda is floating about at the time. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is something local to Thanet. I believe that there's a development in Birchington that has just been given the go-ahead. 7 councillors to 6, 1,600 more houses on prime agricultural land. Apparently the Conservative, Independent and Green councillors voted against. So it was a tie, and it was a Labour councillor who had the casting vote. Now some might say, well, that's still democratic, but actually is it? 7 to 6, and only 7 to 6 because of a casting vote. In a case where it is hung, surely it should be the local electorate who have a say in what's happening. And what kind of evaluation exercises have been carried out? Because our infrastructure is already under strain. Schools are oversubscribed, doctors and dentists are oversubscribed. The local hospital cannot even cope as it is, and neither can the wider infrastructure. Traffic is already a nightmare, especially during the rush hour. And when all's said and done, Thanet is still technically an island, a silted up island, but nonetheless it is still an island and is known as the Isle of Thanet. So when you've got an island community which is undergoing even more strain, and there's been building on, say, the floodplain, which isn't very bright if you think about it, because you know, we keep hearing about climate change, and yet kind of the very thing about building on floodplain land is it's obvious that there's going to be problems potentially in the future with flooding. Also, if you think about it, if all our farming land is built on, where's the biodiversity? Where is it? Where does the wildlife go? There's been a buck loose for a month looking for a mate because all his land, all his habitat has gone. He's been stuck up at Manston for over a month and he could get killed yet. You know, so how is that eco-friendly? How is any of that eco-friendly? And meanwhile, you've got the policymakers flying all around the world. What? And you don't want us to do it because of climate change. And again, of course, there's the issue of if all the farming land is being built up or farmers are forced into a corner to sell land. And Kent has always been the garden county and one of the main producers of food in the UK. What then? What's going to happen? Where do we get our food from? Are we just expected to import everything all the time? How does that work? I would encourage people to support your local businesses, your independent businesses, and also make sure you've always got stocks of dried goods and water in your homes. And also, if you've got any space at all where you can grow a few bits and pieces and share as well with anybody what you can, exchange and barter or swap, then do so. We may need to in the future. Nobody knows what's around the corner. it's easy to say there won't be a problem, but how do we know until it happens? Isn't that what preparedness is all about, to make sure that we can provide for ourselves and our families? The last thing I want to talk about though, and this links up to the fact that, as I said earlier today, that we people in Thanet will have a chance next year in the local elections to show our displeasure at the constant raping and pillaging of our countryside and our way of life for big business, and who is buying as well all these houses, because the local people who work locally certainly haven't got money to buy these properties. So who's going to be moving into the properties? Another worthwhile person to follow here on YouTube is June Slater. I've put her tag up here. And she was talking yesterday about the new group of 100 MPs who are steering electoral reform here in the UK. So basically they will be looking at various forms of proportional representation, because it's quite clear from the general election that we had in July that the first past the post method is no longer fit for purpose. So for example, we had Reform who had several million votes but only had 5 seats, and then by contrast we had other parties who had significantly less but got more seats. So this begs the question, how is this democratic? And if you think that only 59.7% of the electorate actually turned out to vote, and that 34% of the vote went to Labour and they got in on a landslide, and that only actually represented about 20% of the electorate, how is that democratic? I would encourage anybody who can vote to vote at the local elections. By voting, you are raising your voice, you're giving yourself permission to speak up for yourself and others, but if you don't vote, you're giving your voice away. Without wishing to bore the socks off anybody, I will leave it there for now. I look forward to seeing you soon with something perhaps a little bit more light-hearted. So bye for now and enjoy the rest of your day. See you soon.